you are a participant and you do not want to have your image recorded, just make sure that you turn off your video because we will be putting this recording up on the website so that we can have it for other people to view. So I've already introduced myself. We are going to have a number of other speakers tonight. We have Robert Bethauer, who's the Chief Executive Officer with PISE, the Pacific Institute for Sport Excellence. So Robert will be talking on some of the PISE initiatives. Laura Ellen DeVries is our sports school coach, and she'll be discussing our sports side of things, particularly our Ignite athlete development. And then Christina Caden, who is our sports school teacher, will be introducing the principal of Sault School District there at the West Shore Academy. And but Christina will be looking at the academic side of the sports school. Just want to take a moment for everyone just to be grateful and thankful. I mean, it's just fantastic that we have this many people here on the call. I think take a moment to have a bit of a breath. It's where I'm coming from. It is sunny outside, and it's certainly nice to get a little bit of spring. And along those lines, we really want to acknowledge and thank the traditional territories that we're on. I'm on the Algonquin and WSÁNEĆ territories and those traditional lands that we do serve. One of the things that we have within the Canadian Sports School is a great partnership. You'll see at the top there with Canadian Sport Institute Pacific, we partner with PISE, but we also have a great relationship with Sault School District, the Pacific Sport Regional Alliance and Pacific Sports Centers, and of course, the Government of British Columbia. So today we'll be talking about a bit of background on the sports school. As I mentioned, Laura Ellen will get into the Ignite Athlete Development Program. Then Christina will talk a little bit more about the academic planning. We'll go through the application information, and then we'll have some questions at the end. In between, we've got some just awesome athlete panels that are always the highlight of these information nights. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from the different athletes, but not to put any pressure on them. This year, we are engaging in a bit of a background with PISE to look at the delivery option of the sports school. The Canadian Sports School has been traditionally delivered out of PISE. However, the last year with COVID, we had to make a few adjustments to that delivery. So Robert will be expanding a little bit more on that. As far as Canadian Sport Institute Pacific goes, we do really power podium performances, and that is our work that we do with our national sport organizations in helping athletes get to the Olympic or Paralympic podium. We're part of a much broader framework. So right across Canada, there are 7 other Canadian institutes that we work with collaboratively in the delivery of services to NSO. However, here in the province of BC, we're very fortunate to have a regional alliance where we can distribute athlete programming to different areas of the province. And you can see there in red is where we have our campuses, but also the other Pacific Sports Centers or regional alliance partners, some of whom actually deliver the Canadian sports school. So for example, in the Okanagan, we have a sports school there, and also Engage Sport North, which is in northern BC out of Prince George. So with the Canadian Sports School, as we are pan British Columbian, we want every athlete that comes into the sports school to have the same flavor of educational opportunity. And you can see there from our vision that we do want every elite high school athlete in BC to have an opportunity to develop a world-class training environment. And we hear that time and time again when we work with provincial sport organizations and their desire to want to supplement their sport-specific training with excellent physical preparation. And not only the physical preparation, but the preparation about being an athlete, which is a flavor that you'll hear about tonight within our information session. Our mission is to provide a unique daily training environment integrating academics and athletics, in which the foundational high performance skills are taught that support the conversion to an Olympic or Paralympic pathway. And you can see the word daily training environment there because that is something that we feel is all the time for athletes. Whether it's a rest day and recovery, you've got to be thinking about what you're doing in that recovery to get the best benefits out of it. And this is all underpinned by our key values, which are leadership, excellence, perseverance, knowledge, and collaboration, which really makes up the Canadian Sports School and gives us a common flavor across the province. Robert, I'll just send it over to you, and you can really update us on the PICE perspective for this year.
Thank you very much, Dave. Well, first of all, a little bit about PICE in case you're not fully familiar with us. We're now 13 years old and are really a collaboration of Canadian Sport Institute Pacific, Camosun College, and an organization called Pacific Sport Now 94 Forward, who had the vision of combining sport excellence with educational excellence. PICE is probably the largest summer sport institute in Canada, one of the best in the world. 75,000 square foot facility with a 400-meter track, a full artificial turf for outdoor training. And over the 13 years, has been really able to establish an incredible partnership between high performance sport, education, research, and community health. And that's what PICE has evolved into. Our mission and our values are really geared to the quality of life for individuals and for the community. And sport and physical activity just happens to be our primary medium. So that's our purpose statement: transforming lives through healthy activity and sport. And one of the biggest programs that we run is physical literacy throughout the entire community. And as I often say to my friends at Canadian Sport Institute Pacific, the big way that we're helping the performance pathway to the podium is by getting so many more children physically active and interested in being active for life in sport and taking it to the highest level that they can. So PICE is also made up of an exceptional team of individuals who are very passionate about their work and have gained huge experience over the last 13 years working in our collaborative environment. So we're very excited about the opportunity now to take over running the sports school from CSI Pacific. I mean, we've been involved from the first day when the sports school was set up because it is housed at PICE. So we're very, very familiar with the model and also incredibly supportive. Ellie, if you can switch to the next slide, please. As I mentioned to you, the educational link with PICE is actually massive, starting with Camosun College, which PICE is located on the interurban campus for Camosun College. Within that, the Center for Sport and Exercise Education operates also at the PICE, the same way that CSI Pacific and the Olympic and Paralympic training does. That school has 450 students who can get degrees now in sport management, exercise wellness, and athletic therapy. So the environment that you are in, the sports school is in PICE, is one where you have post-secondary students getting a sport and exercise wellness education. In the same environment, you have Olympic and Paralympic athletes training for podium success. And as well, an organization that is constantly serving the community at all ages and skill levels So that holistic environment is very dynamic, very exciting, and why Pisces now be having a chance to actually run the sports school is it's such a good fit for us. We also have relationships with all 4 school districts in the South Vancouver Island region. Districts 1, 61, 62, 63, 64. Of course, the partnership with the sports school is school district 62. But all to say that we have a very strong relationship with education in our community. We're very committed to it. And the sports school to me is about developing life skills, again, through sport and physical activity, but it's really the life skills that you will develop here, which will take you very far in life. And, you know, I feel so strongly about the sports school that I've had 2 children graduate through this program. One of them will be speaking tonight. And I just saw their growth. I saw their maturity. I saw how much they enjoyed being in an environment with other achievement-oriented individuals who understood what they were aspiring to be. So very excited for us to play this role now. And of course, we will continue to have a great collaborative relationship with Canadian Sport Institute Pacific. So that relationship isn't going to go anywhere. And for those students who are returning, you're going to be training in the same environment that you were able to prior to COVID. The last comment I want to make before I turn it over to my colleague, Stacy, is some of you may be asking, so what's going to happen with COVID? When are we going to start? We believe that we as things unroll with the vaccine rollout and as restrictions will slowly be rescinded over the course of the summer, that there will be the opportunity for us to hold the sports school mid-September as our usual start date live at Pisces. We've put many safety protocols in place. We've learned a lot over the past year, and I think we've done an outstanding job. And if for any reason there is a delay, we all know how to adjust by a few weeks or a month if we need to. But I'm actually confident, or let's put it this way, cautiously confident, that we'll be able to gather as we have before in mid-September, and that you'll get the full experience of the sports school at Pisces. And now I'd like to turn it over to Stacy.
Thanks, Robert, for that update. And I'm happy to speak a little bit more about the program. My name's Stacy Lund, and I work in business development at Pisces. And my role is to help with the transition of the sports school. But as Robert said, we're all still working with Canadian Sport Institute very closely. So our approach is very much in line with Canadian Sport Institute Pacific, with their philosophy around youth athlete development. And we also subscribe to the long-term development model developed by Sport for Life. Our plan is for students to be back in the gym, as Robert mentioned, in the fall, and we will have dedicated space and time set aside for them to have that special space. They'll be on the track for their sprint training, and plans are underway for gymnastics, which some gymnastics will likely take place at Pisces in the coming year. You'll learn more about the curriculum and everything involved later on in the presentation. So in terms of inclusion, one of our core values at Pisces is inclusion, and we are committed to working with people of all abilities and all backgrounds. We're proud to have worked with many Paralympians over the years, and we received a special award from Rowing Canada for our work in developing the Para Rowing Center, which actually resulted in some medals at the Olympics and Paralympics. We also work collaboratively with Indigenous communities, and right now we're working with them in a strength and conditioning program on a weekly basis prior to COVID. So right now it's going online. In terms of high performance athlete development, we have a very skilled team, and I'm pleased to let you know that Chris Hinton, our performance coordinator, who's on the call tonight, will be leading the strength and conditioning portion of the program. Chris has extensive education and experience working with high performance athletes. Some of his highlights of his career with Pisces include developing a high performance baseball program in partnership with the Harbor Cats. He works currently with field hockey athletes, high performance. He also works with climbers from the Boulders Gym who compete internationally. He's worked with many high-profile hockey players, and he's currently working extensively with Pacific FC, the soccer program here in Victoria. So we're really excited for this opportunity. We know it's going to be an exciting year ahead. Our goal is to make the transition as seamless as possible, and we're ready to take this on. And thank you very much. Pass it back to Dave.
Let me not forget to unmute my mic there, which is the common faux pas that you usually have on online. But moving on, absolutely thrilled to have Pisey come into the delivery aspect of the sports school. And it doesn't necessarily change our role as the Institute when we look at the overarching purposes of the Canadian sports school around the province. And significantly there, what we invest in are agreements with different regional centers where they can operate this type of model. And there's no doubt about it that this model has had some success. And certainly we're proud of that success. We've been able to have people come through the sports school and end up in the on the Olympic stage. The top of the picture there is Charity Williams, who was part of the last Olympics in Rio. Mel Pemble, who was represented Canada at the Paralympic Games in Korea, and then also Riley Pickerel, the cycling athlete, who has converted up into national team, and Riley has had several years in the program. We also look at success in other ways, and certainly within the province of BC, we have a very good relationship with all the provincial sport organizations where they identify targeted athletes. So we've been able to track our sports school athletes across the province to see how many of them actually convert into that provincial targeting, or even going beyond the provincial identification and being identified on national teams, as I showed in the previous slide. We've also looked at the number of students that convert into youth sport or schools down in the United States with regard to continuing their academic careers, because many of the sports that we have in the pathway are very much aligned to college or university sports. And that's very important to a lot of students, and it's important to some of the parents that we have of the athletes in the sports school. And lastly, we've had success of seeing athletes over the last 10 years, 150 athletes across the different within the Victoria Sports School, and 32 different sports represented. So we're very proud of the success that we've had in operating the sports school, and we believe that that success is going to continue, and we're happy to have oversight over many more sports school opportunities within the province. And I'll turn it over to you, Laura Ellen, and you can continue on with some of the programming elements.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to virtually see everyone. As Dave mentioned, my name is Laura Ellen. I'll go a bit back into my background later on in the presentation, but I just wanted to talk about what makes the Canadian Sports School different than other academies. So the first one is our high performance culture. So our athletes experience this type of culture that would be similar to like their varsity and national level. The second would be our multi-sport training environment that allows our fellow athletes to learn from different sport backgrounds and grow as an individual athlete. The third one would be our resources. So Christina will talk a little bit more about our sport performance seminars, but they provide access to top professionals in their field, such as physiologists, nutritionists, and mental performance consultants, to name a few. Our last one is our sports school operates on the Vince Lombardi rule. So this just states that if you are 5 minutes early, you're already 10 minutes late. And this just is a rule that we follow to teach the personal responsibility of each individual athlete. Moving on, here at the Canadian Sport Institute Pacific, we like to focus on building the person and not just the athlete. We teach our athletes to cultivate an integrated support team. This means creating a support system to help the individual during setbacks, as well as enhance their athletic development. The IST is athlete-centered and can look different for each athlete. As mentioned previously, our sport performance seminars provide resources and access to these professionals mentioned. When looking at our CSS program pillars, there's 4 things that we can look at. As mentioned previously, our sport performance seminars and our Ignite athlete development. This will be talked about in depth later on in the presentation. Thirdly, our independent study blocks. These are supervised study blocks with a knowledgeable teacher to help and support our athletes. And then there's sport-specific training. So this allows athletes to receive credit for participating in their sport. So pre-COVID, our weekly schedule looked a little bit different. So on Mondays, they would have a sport performance seminar with an independent study block. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, they would have a strength training session. And then on Wednesdays, they would have a bi-weekly sprint or gymnastics. And all these sessions were followed by an independent study block. And then on Friday, there would be no sports school, and this would just allow our athletes to travel, which isn't happening right now, or catch up on homework and training. Talking about COVID adaptations. So right now, all our academics of our program are online. So there's no supervised study blocks, but Christina does weekly check-ins with our students. On Tuesdays, we are actually off-site at a facility called Transform Sports, and that's when they would do their strength session 1. On Wednesday, we have gymnastics every single week right now at Inspire Sports. And Thursday, we do sprint sessions at Pisces outside. Lastly, on Friday, it's not kind of a free day for them to either catch up or train. They are responsible for doing their second strength training. I like to be on site at Pisces. Some of them use their memberships to train there as well. Talking about COVID safety. Lots and lots of fun. So due to COVID, there has been several adaptations to that weekly schedule. Right now, there are 4 training groups, two groups in the morning and 2 groups in the PM. This allows the max number of athletes training to be 8. Every facility that we attend has a different COVID protocol, but right now the safety of our athletes is of the utmost importance during these unprecedented times. Some of the protocols that we do follow are in our daily screening on Smartabase, temperature checks, and they also have a little questionnaire when they come into each training site. At the beginning of this sports school year, our athletes were taught a seminar on hand hygiene and mask etiquette by our COVID point person at the Institute, Stephanie Reed. Moving on to the best part of the presentation, we have our first athlete panels, and we are going to start with Noah. Noah will be able to tell you a little bit more about himself, and then our second athlete will be Katie Bentley. So Noah, I am going to hand it off to you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so my name's Noah. I'm a tennis player. I was in the program for 3 years, graduating a couple of years ago. And yeah, I mean, first of all, definitely my abilities as a tennis player were enhanced, and it was a great environment to become a better athlete. But just to reiterate a bit what Robert was saying earlier, for me, it was also about the personal growth and the development of life skills. I found that in the beginning, I was definitely maybe a little bit shy, maybe a bit timid and questioning, if I was good enough to be in the program, but definitely just because of the welcoming and challenging environment the sports school has, I was able to grow a lot, and values like professionalism and personal accountability and just communication skills with your peers and your coaches and your teachers. I really developed those over time in the 3 years, and I gained a lot of confidence, and it prepared me, and it was a big stepping stone for university, which would come. And then at UBC, I've been able to thrive because of it. I think just this past year on the tennis team at UBC, I was approached to be the club lead, the team lead. And I don't think I would have been approached, or I would have achieved the same level of success in that position if I hadn't been at sports school and I hadn't been exposed to those values and had that commitment and over time. And yeah, I mean, I think if that's something that excites you and you see yourself maybe in a role like that in the future, I would definitely recommend checking out the sports school or applying. And the last thing I'll say is, it's not like everything has to come right away. For me, it was the development over time that was so meaningful. So, be prepared to evolve and grow as a person in this program. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Noah. And our next athlete panel is Katie Bentley.
Hi, so my name is Katie, and this is my second year at sports school. And over the past 2 years, I have felt very lucky to be able to experience the inspiring culture of CSS. All of the student athletes and staff bring so much passion, determination, and positivity, and it really maximizes everyone's growth in the program. At every training session, all the athletes push one another to their limits, and you can count on your CSS peers and coaches to cheer you on when you're struggling. And at CSS, no one's ever trying to beat one another, but instead we are a team who help one another to reach our full potential. And everyone is always working really hard as they do their exercises, but everyone can still joke around in between sets and keep the training environment fun and not take away the joy of sport, which can sometimes happen in high performance sport due to pressure and a competitive atmosphere. And this incredibly positive culture at sports school continues into the academic side as well. Everyone at sports school has different strengths, and the students utilize those different strengths to learn from one another so that we can reach our full capabilities in both academics and sport. For example, in study block, the students help one another out with seminar assignments and subjects from school. And this culture at CSS is infectious. Like, no matter how tired you are or how bad your day was, you will come to sports school and instantly be engulfed by the energy and passion that others bring. So overall, the positive driven environment cultivated at CSS pushes everyone to not only be the best version of themselves as an athlete and student, but as a leader and a person as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. So moving on, we're going to talk about our Ignite athlete development and why our curriculum was created. Just a little bit about myself. So I'm in my second year at the Canadian Sports School. So I've learned a lot in my last few years. As Dave mentioned, all of you should know by now, so my name is Laura Ellen. I've been coaching strength and conditioning for about 10 years, and it is my second year with the sports school. I started with an undergraduate degree in kinesiology from McMaster University, where I got to work with various teams such as women's soccer, men's rugby, and swimming. Post-undergrad, I worked for a few years, gaining experience working with general population, return to play athletes, specifically ACL reconstructions, and high-performance athletes from Beach Volleyball Canada. I then traveled to Amsterdam to obtain my master's degree in human movement sciences, which is a bunch of fancy words, but I specialized in thermal physiology. As a young athlete, I have played various sports, but I typically competed in track and field, rowing, and rugby. As Stacy mentioned previously, PICE also likes to look at their long-term athlete development, just like CSI. Due to the current sport climate, it is moving towards earlier and earlier specialization, which unfortunately limits the time needed to develop motor learning and skill acquisition. As a result, skill and form are often compromised when higher training loads are experienced, which can lead to injury and decreases in performance. We target the train stage of long-term athlete development, which can be seen on the left-hand side of this diagram. This means we work on building the foundation of the overall athlete, not just physically, but mentally as well. Allowing athletes to combine athletics and academics helps them achieve balance between life demands and personal goals. We aim to create athletes that move better. If athletes move better, they become more resistant to injury and are able to enhance physiological parameters such as strength and power to the best of their ability. By looking at the stage of development of each athlete, we can figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are. As a result, we can create a program that enhances weaknesses to become strengths and build a strong foundation so the athlete can sustain higher training loads later on in their pathway. It is important to note that long-term athlete development is never a linear process and is different for each individual. And that's what just the right-hand side of the diagram shows. As mentioned previously, sport as a whole is leaning towards earlier recruitment, but this often does not correspond to the growth and maturation of young athletes. It is important for us to prepare our athletes for what is next and not what is now. We want to build a strong foundation of mental and physical health and progress them along their athletic pathway appropriately. This means more well-rounded and balanced programming early on in development towards more sport-specific and competitive programming later on in maturation. On the right-hand side, this is one of our sports school alumni, as mentioned before. Her name's Charity Williams, and she's holding her bronze medal. Therefore, due to these current restrictions in our sport climate, the Ignite curriculum was created due to the previous mentioned gaps, as well to create a shift in thinking of how to train young athletes based on growth and maturation. And therefore, the three facets of the Ignite athlete development were created are strength, sprinting, and gymnastics. So we're going to talk about the why. Why do we train strength at sports school? It is easy to say that stronger athletes can become less resistant to injuries because they're able to control and resist external loads better. And therefore, as a result, they have greater performance and able to handle higher workloads. Also, strength can show a lot of movement dysfunctions that could possibly cause injury. For something as simple as under a squat load, an athlete can have knock knees. And this would allow us to kind of target that movement dysfunction and create better strength around. The last thing we could look at is all of our athletes are super active, and most of them are lacking in flexibility or mobility. All my athletes will tell you if we have to do one more set of accessories versus their stretching at the end, I will always choose the stretches for this one reason. The last thing we like to look at for strength is Olympic lifting. And we focus on Olympic lifting because it is a lot of movement chaining and can show power and speed in chaining those movements. Moving on, we have sprinting. So why do we focus on sprinting? Specifically at sports school, we look at top speed and acceleration. So really looking at the finer points of technique. Currently, a lot of coaches focus on aerobic capacity at a young age. This means training the endurance of the athlete. Often techniques such as acceleration and top speed are overlooked. Therefore, athletes are working on endurance with a compromise in technique. Our goal is to create a foundation of efficient technique, which will allow that individual to sustain higher aerobic workloads at a faster rate and with less injury. Gymnastics is our third training. A lot of my athletes have asked me, why do we do gymnastics? And I got to present to them earlier on in this year, which was quite fun. And as they have probably realized, gymnastics involves a lot of awkward positions. But injuries happen when the body is in an awkward position too long and is unable to bounce back quickly enough. Gymnastics creates body awareness and control that allow athletes to get out of these awkward positions without injury. Furthermore, gymnastics develops core strength that is a key player in any sport. Looking past the training, we like to do some physiological testing. Our testing just allows us to have a baseline of where the athlete is right now in their athletic pathway. We look at anthropometrics, specifically height, weight, and wingspan, just to see how they are growing throughout the sports school year. For speed, we look at a 30-meter sprint test, and we do a flying 10-meter. For power, we look at a counter movement vertical jump, and then skill proficiency in Olympic lifts, as well as some compound movements like your squat and deadlift. The second form of testing we do is called a core movement evaluation. And this was created to look at functional movement patterns. When we are born, young toddlers have perfect movement patterns. They are able to pick up a pumpkin with perfect deadlift form. As we age, we grow out of these movement patterns due to lifestyle and societal restrictions. We sit every day at a desk and move less. These tests are used to look at the quality of the movement an athlete has and requires no previous training. We look at a push-up, a supine row, a walking lunge, and our overhead squat. And this is just showing if you are a good fit for the athletic side of our program. So are you willing to relentlessly pursue excellence in high performance pathway? Do you want to be a future Olympian and Paralympian or national team member? Are you interested in becoming a better and more well-rounded athlete? And do you want to be around like-minded athletes in a high-performance environment? And moving on, we have another set of our athlete panels. Marcus Lott will be speaking first, and then followed by Ava Person.
Hi, my name is Marcus Lott. I play rugby and I've played for both BC 15s and 7s. I go to Oak Bay High School and it is my second year at CSS. With the 3 options, it truly is great with weight training, gymnastics, and sprint. It totally increases just your total balance of your whole body strength. And as a rugby player, I was never the most flexible person. I still am not, but I've been getting there through the gymnastics training, and it has helped my game so much, giving me so much increased flexibility and a better control over my entire body. The difference in my form, power, and speed that has developed over my time in the program is great, not only through my sprints, but also through my weight training and my lifting. And not just the strength of my lifts, but the actual lifts that I am doing. I never thought that I would be doing like Olympic weightlifting lifts in the gym ever in my time. And it truly changed like my perspective on how weight training is. I've been in the program for 2 years, but my first year was technically cut short because of COVID. But the way that we adapted and the coaching staff adapted coming back to the program in the new year was truly great. And I felt that we didn't lose a lot of the amazing stuff that we got access to in the athletics, and we got the best possible outcome being in our current situation. The coaching that we receive in this program of all these aspects truly has changed not only the way I train, but my play on the rugby pitch. This program, I believe that this program has set me up the best possible that I can for the future of my sport.
Awesome. Thanks, Marcus. And Ava.
Hi everyone, my name's Ava Person and I'm a grade 12 student at Stelly Secondary School and I'm currently in my 3rd year at CSS. My sports are volleyball and basketball, but I am committed to play post-secondary volleyball at Simon Fraser University next year. I've been in the sports school program for 3 years now, and honestly, I would not be where I am today without the program. Before CSS, I always found it hard to find time to work out after being at school for 6 hours a day because that can be very draining itself. And then having 1, 2, or sometimes 3 sports practices in the afternoon almost every day. Having the opportunity to lift twice a week and getting gymnastics and sprint training too has honestly been a blessing. And also getting over an hour to complete homework and study block has helped me keep ahead of my courses too. Coming to the program in grade 10, I pretty much had no knowledge of lifting and even less of Olympic lifting. But at sports school, that part doesn't matter at all. Like you can be a beginner like I was, or you can be more of an expert like Catherine Lee, who you'll hear from later, who actually competes in Olympic lifting. Because at whatever stage you're at, they accommodate for that. And I was super nervous my first week, but they made the transition super easy. And in no time, I had gained a lot of confidence in the gym. And now I can confidently go and train by myself at Pisces, doing cleans, squats, snatches, pretty much anything that gets put in my program now. And the programs that Laura Ellen creates for us are honestly incredible. They have that perfect blend of building our muscle mass, our strength, as well as our power and speed. But for me, most importantly, she also incorporates the aspect of stretching and recovery into our workouts. Because before CSS, I didn't really realize the importance of stretching after a workout and what a difference it began to make for me. I was way more agile and able to take on higher volumes of training in my sport because I was doing proper recovery after my workouts. CSS and the training I get has honestly made me such a better athlete as a whole. The training we do directly correlates to my sport-specific training as well. My vertical jump has increased a lot since coming into the program, as well as increasing my upper body strength has helped my power in setting, serving, and attacking in volleyball. And university coaches during my recruiting process took note of that and were really impressed with the physicality and level of athleticism I developed at my age. because everything we do at sports school helps contribute to our development in our sports. And if you really want to achieve high performance in your sport and be on that podium pathway, applying to CSS will be the best thing you can do to help you on your journey.
Awesome. Thanks, Ava. And I would like to introduce our sports school teacher, Christina Caden.
Hi, everyone. Ava, you're a tough one to follow. Great job. Okay, so my name is Christina Caden. I'm very fortunate to have been in this role for the past 9 years, and even more grateful and lucky to have a very supportive school district behind me with leaders who are passionate about sport and understand the high performance world. One of those leaders who understands is Wayne Kelly, who's on the line with us tonight. He is this Canadian Sports School principal, and he is a former Olympian in the sport of swimming, and has always been, like I said, really incredibly supportive of the program. And he's going to say a few words, and then I'll dive into more of the specifics with regards to academics.
Thanks, Christina. Hi, everybody, and welcome tonight. Big hello from Sauk School District. We are really proud to have been involved with Canadian Sport Institute, CSI, and now PICE. We've been on the educational side, supporting students here, I believe, for the last 11 years. And I can say amazing teachers that we've had. Christina is outstanding. Whenever I think back to my own sporting time when I was swimming, I could only imagine where the group of us could have gone if we had had support from a program like this. Christina is just outstanding in the program that she's developed over the last 10 years. We're very lucky to have her. And on the other side, we also have another teacher this year, Sarah Worrell, who does online English, but we've been able to bring her in for face-to-face. So again, thank you again. We are always proud to be involved with Canadian Sport Institute and now PICE, and welcome. And I really look forward to seeing some of the young faces as we move forward into the next year. Thanks, Christina.
Thanks, Wayne. Okay, so I'm just going to dive into how it works on the academic side, and along with the email that Laura Ellen sent out, you should have received the document on the right. It's a bit small on the screen, I imagine, so we sent it out as a separate document. Just so the majority of our students attend their homeschool for half the day, and then they attend the sports school for the other half of the day. The courses in blue are typically the courses that they would take at their homeschool, and the courses in red are the courses that they would take at the sports school. So, I mean, typically they take their core courses like the math, the science, the English, and the social studies at their homeschools, and then the majority of our courses are electives. However, some of them, including the career education courses, we offer leadership, which counts for an applied skill, and then physical and health education 10 is a requirement, and 1 elective in grade 10 as well. So we try to fulfill as many requirements as possible, but the majority of those will be fulfilled at their homeschool. And then I'll talk a little bit more in detail about this later, but the English is in gray because this is optional. You can take it at your homeschool or sports school, and it really is up to students' preference and choice. I'll just get you to move to the next one there. Another option that some of our students take advantage of is some of our students go fully online. So one of the first students to do this was a figure skater, and by the time she got off the ice in the morning, she wouldn't have been able to really do a half day at her homeschool either way. So she came to us and did her training second block, stayed through lunch, and did the she did the study block, and then she was with us through lunch, and then she did the training, and then she went back to the rink. So there's a lot of things that you can do to be creative to make it fit with whatever your circumstance is. This individual was incredibly driven and motivated, and she really nailed the online world. In fact, she was done grade 10 by the end of November, so I had to put the reins on her a bit. But you can really be very creative. Catherine Lee, who you'll hear from in a little bit here, she also does the full-time online, and then some students do a hybrid. So I think through COVID, one of the gifts is that everybody's been forced to try it out, and it really is a skill. You know, I believe that it really prepares students for university, and there's a lot of skills that you can learn with that. So some students pick up a course here and there online, and some students don't. So it really is up to them. And I'm happy to sit with however many students, whoever needs the help to kind of look at what your circumstance is and how you can make sports school work within your needs. But there's a lot of things that you can do beyond the traditional half day at your homeschool, half day at sports school. Oh, can you just go back to that last one there? Sorry, Laura Ellen. So I just wanted to talk about the full-time online. So I think another thing that people are learning through COVID is that it's not for everybody. And so I just kind of outlined there kind of who I think it's a good fit for. You know, the social aspect of school, it can be incredibly important. And so if it's not a need for you, or you're feeling as though it's met elsewhere, then it can definitely be a fit for the right individual. Okay, so I'm just going to go quickly through the courses that you actually will get credit for at sports school, and then highlight some important information that I think you should know. So the first course on there is called Individual Sport Training. So this is 8 credits, one course each semester, and students get credit for this course for the actual work that they do within their sport. And so we really rely on their sport specific coaches to communicate with us and evaluate athletes on their performance in their training environments. And this is unique to sports school because normally the two worlds are quite different. The sport and the academic worlds don't speak a lot, and everybody's demanding and pulling students in both directions. And so we really try to loop everybody into the same circle as much as possible and get everybody on the same page. And this is one way that we do it is, you know, we try not to make it an onerous task for the coaches. We basically ask for what are the strengths that this athlete exhibited in the last 2 months? What are some areas of improvement? How can we help? And then they actually do assign a work habit for your performance in your sporting environment. And then if there's something or conversation that needs to be had beyond that evaluation, there's a chance for that. So, you know, over the years, we've had some great meetings even, you know, I've sat down with the coach and the sports school coach, but the sports specific coach as well. And we just kind of all sat down and had a meeting about the athlete, sometimes with them and their parents, just to make sure that everybody's supporting the athlete as much as possible and that everybody's on the same page. Oh, can you go back to that? Sorry, Lorianne. So one thing I want to highlight here is that the sport specific coaches, it's really important when students apply to the program, they're going to be asked for a coach reference. And in that coach reference, the coaches need to outline, or sorry, say that they're willing to evaluate their athlete throughout the year. And that's really important to have a conversation with your coach about, so that they're supportive, because it can get a little bit hard throughout the year to kind of nag the coach. And if they're not aware of it, it just causes a little bit of friction. So for the most part, our athletes really look forward to these evaluations because they don't always get this formal assessment. That's usually just kind of little bits of feedback here and there, but this is like a chance for the coach to sit down and write something. And some athletes put down 2-3 coaches, and they really do look forward to this feedback. And And so it's really important to have that conversation with your coach and make sure that they're on board with the program. The next one is the sport performance course, and this is the seminar course. So every Monday, we have seminars on, and I've listed a number of topics there, and they're not limited to those topics. But normally they're in the classroom, and we record them for athletes who are on the road. In one of the athletes that Dave mentioned earlier, Mel Pembo, she was away for 5 months while she was training and preparing for Pyeongchang, and she did all of her assignments online. So even when we're in the classroom, we make sure that it's available online so that when the world opens up again, which I think we're all looking forward to, athletes can have a seamless educational experience and stay in touch with their peers this way. So the people who deliver these seminars are world-class practitioners who are in the daily training environment of national athletes, Olympic athletes daily. And I can't tell you how lucky our students are to have this knowledge with them. I mean, even today we had a virtual cooking session with one of the sport dietitians, and everybody was at home in their kitchen. And there's some pretty amazing things that take place in these seminars and amazing learning. So, and that goes on throughout the year, and that's one course at Sports School. The next two courses are, for the most part, delivered through the Ignite Athlete Development Program, in addition to a number of select seminars as well. But most of them are in Ignite. So you earn one course per semester through the work you do in the Ignite program downstairs. And then the last ones are the required courses, so the Career Life courses and the Leadership 11, and those are delivered online, and some of them are through the seminars as well. And then, like I said before, this is an option we found throughout the years. We had French immersion students, we had students that wanted to take maybe more than one math course or more than one science course, and they just needed to free up one more spot in their timetable, and this just provided them an opportunity to take another course. And English is just that one course that there's just the one option from grade 10, 11, and 12. Everybody has to take English, and that's why we chose it. And so initially students struggled with this because they're not used to online. So we've found ways throughout the years to make it work. So number one, we have a designated teacher who usually comes to Pisces once a week to provide face-to-face support. We also created the calendar option. So the teacher has taken all the assignments and outlined them throughout the year and spread them out and created due dates for students. And this is an option. It's highly recommended just to create that accountability and structure. But like I said earlier, there's some students that do all their courses online, and they choose the self-directed option, which is signed off by parents. And then the supervised study blocks. So they have about an hour to 70 minutes daily upstairs with the teacher. And this is just dedicated time to work on mostly homework or test exam prep. But on the odd day that they don't have any of that, there's other options there that students can use the time for. But it is their responsibility to choose, like prioritize what they need to do. Look, Noah, you're in that picture, if he's still on the line. Okay, and then the next one. Okay, so the benefits of being in the sports school academically is support from the teachers and the peers. I mean, the students really do support one another. You're never going to find a teacher in there that is knowledgeable on every subject. So, you know, if they're working on a Chem 12, there's always somebody that's taken that course or is taking that course. So they do a great job of supporting each other. And that was mentioned earlier by one of the students. Less homework because they're not filling their schedule with, you know, courses that they don't necessarily need. One of our athletes said, I used to go to bed at midnight. Now I'm going to bed at 9 or 10. So they get more sleep, recovery, training time. And the whole goal is balance within their day. And then they earn academic credits for the work that they're doing at the sports school. And then we have an academic standard. So all students must earn all E's or G's on their report card. So you're going to submit your report card when you apply. And so that would typically be your term 2 report card. And if you didn't earn E's or G's on the report cards, then you do get the opportunity to meet that standard moving forward. So we've still got, a bit of term 3 left and all of term 4 left. So you still have that opportunity to earn the standard. I always recommend that students be proactive here and communicate with their teachers. It's not meant to be punitive. It's really meant to help them develop those communication and relationships with teachers that are important, not only in high school, but when they go on to university, because athletes typically do miss a lot of school. And just have a conversation with your teacher, find out what an E or G looks like to them. It's different for every teacher, and then check in and see how you're doing along the way. Okay, so probably you've already gone through your course selection at your high school for next year. So you probably will need to book an appointment with your counselor and request that your courses be blocked together. So you'll probably have to get your sheet back, or I don't know if you're doing it online now. However your school does it, you'll probably have to go and book a meeting with your counselor and rejig it, but block them together. And then fill the other half of the day with either electives or courses that you could drop if you were accepted. And then you just go to the next one there, Ellie, thanks. And then indicate whether you or not your preference would be AM, PM. Some schools you have to do both. You do maybe Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday morning, Tuesday, Thursday afternoon. It's different for everybody. And then this is kind of, normally our info night is a little bit earlier, but it's probably a bit too late to staple that counselor letter. So you were emailed a counselor letter just that introduces our program to your counselors. And I suggest you take that in just so that they're aware of what our program is if they're new and unfamiliar with it. And then this is just like the people who are a good fit for our program. Independently driven. I don't need to read them all out, but typically, strong, hardworking academic students doesn't mean you have to be a straight A student, but you do need to have a good work ethic. And does anybody have any academic questions for me on the line here? Maybe you could just unmute yourself and speak, or type it in the chat box, and maybe Stacy could moderate that. Oh, I see one there. How does this change with a private school? So it really depends on the private school. This is probably a conversation that you should call me, and we can have that conversation. The general answer is, my suggestion is that sometimes private schools aren't willing to allow you to only take half a course load. And so we've had students attend in the past that have had to take a full course load at the private school and all our courses, and it kind of defeats the purpose of the program. So you just want to make sure that your school is supportive and willing to drop half of the courses so that you could take the rest at our school. But as for the logistics of everything else, we should probably talk offline, because it's really different from every school. And I'm assuming it's GNS if it's the IB school, but feel free to call me and I'm happy to have a conversation with you. I'm gonna just open up. Okay, any other questions, academic questions?
There's another question, Christina, from James Smith. How does this work with online IDS courses?
IDS or IBS?
ID for David F.
Okay, so I'm assuming that's independent directed studies that you're talking about?
Yes.
So my knowledge of independent directed studies courses, can you just elaborate on that? Because typically those are courses that you create yourself based on your own interests to earn elective credits. Is that what you mean? Perhaps you can just unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Through the PACE program, through sides and NIDES.
Okay, so you wouldn't need those courses. Like at the end of the day, our students graduate with more credits than they need. So in my experience, those are just electives, and you would earn a lot of elective courses through the sports school. So it might be a bit too much. So you'd really want to make sure that you were getting your core academic courses through sides or NIDES.
Right. So it's for my daughter, and she already has some of these courses done already. So
the courses that I'm talking about?
No, the independent directed studies. Like
right.
She has grade 11 and grade 10 and grade 11 courses done already.
And that's okay. But our suite of courses, the students have to take our full suite of courses. Okay. And then how they earn credit for the other core courses that you need to graduate is really up to them. You could do them all online. You could do them at homeschool. You can get quite creative with it. But the thing is, you have to take the suite of courses that the sports school provides, because that's where we get our funding from.
Got it. I understand. Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
It did.
Okay. Is there any other academic questions? Okay, and we can go on to the panel. Okay, first up is Catherine Lee, who you've heard mentioned a few times tonight.
Hi, my name is Catherine Lee, and I compete in Olympic weightlifting, and this is my second and last year in the Canadian Sports School. I am a grade 12 student graduating through Claremont Secondary School, although I took the majority of my high school courses through online schools, such as Sides and NIDES. When I went into the interview for the Canadian Sports School, I was asked if I was planning on competing in my sport in university and how I would further my sport. In Olympic weightlifting, there are no teams in any of the universities in Canada. Due to this, I knew that if I needed to get a scholarship to go to school, it would have to be with my academics. I have pretty good grades before I joined the Canadian Sports School, with about an 85% average in the course that I took in grade 10. But being in the Canadian Sports School, I have increased my average to a 94, which is something I never thought I would be able to do as being a student athlete. Going to school in the morning, straight to the gym, and then back home to try to get homework done was a huge balancing act. But when I joined CSS, we were blessed to have a designated study block where you have your peers and Christina to bounce questions off of and get help with any of your academics. I know personally for me, going through my pre-calc 11 class, I sat with Christina almost half the time trying to understand the course. As an athlete, you learn so much about training and your sport and your body and how to do your sport. But sometimes you lack the knowledge of other parts of that sport, such as your nutrition, mental health, leadership skills, and goal-setting skills. During our weekly seminars and weekly seminar assignments, I have been able to learn how to up my mental and physical game, as well as learning how to be the best teammate I possibly could be. When COVID hit, I was pretty upset that we were unable to be in class because I had met some of my best friends through the program, as well as I was upset about all I would lose not being in person, such as the study blocks, peer help, and help from Christina that I talked about earlier. My worries disappeared when the year started. Although all the training was in person and masked, all the academic parts of sports school were still online through apps such as Zoom, Google Meets, or Microsoft Teams. We still have all of our seminars and assignments, but this year Christina added in a weekly checkup where we go through our highs and lows, as well as we get to see and connect with all the other athletes. Due to the seminars being online, we have been able to get speakers that we were unable to get before, such as Haley Smith, who shared her story of mental health in sport. Although this year has been a big change, the ability to change to online classes and the ability to manage our time shows how the Canadian Sports School prepares you with the resilience and grit to be able to fight through these changes. The Canadian Sports School has helped me grow into someone who is confident and excited to be going to university next year, because I know I have all the skills that I need to succeed. I will be going to the University of Victoria with the plan to major in history and minor in applied ethics. My goal for my future job would be to work in constitutional law. For my lifting, I will continue to be lifting in Victoria with my team, Siemens Weightlifting, and I will be more than excited to continue training with the amazing team I have there and continue to chip away at my goals. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Catherine. Next up is Kai Higuchi, who's going to speak on the online English portion of the program.
So hi guys, my name is Kai and this is my second year at sports school. And as you can see, my sport is volleyball. So yeah, I'm just gonna be talking a bit about how English online is a bit different than taking it in like a normal class. So first of all, not everyone has to take it, but many of you probably will need to, depending on how many courses you decide to take, or if you're in French immersion like I was. But I actually found that the schedule is a lot clearer cut than a normal class, and you get to know like which assignments are due each week, like as opposed to taking it, finding out like week by week in a normal class, and I like that a lot more. It definitely takes some more time management and self-responsibility since you'll be doing all the lessons on your own, and no one can kind of force you to do the lessons. They can only force you to complete the assignments. But you can always reach out to the English teacher if you have any questions. The one thing that's fortunate about online English throughout COVID is that it stayed mostly the same from before and after. And the only thing that we lost was the in-person time we had with the English teacher once a week that Christina talked about at the beginning. But hopefully next year we'll be able to return back to the classroom. Another thing with taking an online course is that you will have the option to go with a self-directed or a guided pathway. And the main difference between the two is that the self-directed pathway, you choose when and how often to complete assignments. Whereas with the guided pathway, your teacher will have set due dates and will send a reminder if you're falling behind. I definitely recommend going with the guided route, especially if it's your first time taking an online course, because it helps to keep you accountable and you can always work ahead and finish early anyways. I also find that with most students taking the guided pathway at sports school, it's nice to have a group of peers who are working through the same assignments around the same time, so you can reach out for support to them as well if you need it. And my final piece of advice for anyone who is looking to take an online class is to do your assignments little by little. I always find that if I set small goals for each homework session, the work will go by a lot quicker and the quality of your assignment will be a lot better. And then also another really good resource is just all the, like your older athletes that have taken a course before you. Like I know this year I actually decided to take calculus online and I reached out to a former athlete, her name's Nora, and she did calculus and did really well with it. So I just recommend asking any athletes and they're all really willing to help you.
Awesome. Thanks, Kai.
Okay, moving on to application information. So our application should be opening up. Here's just the timeline. They should be opening up at the beginning of April and then closing around the end of April. And then we're looking to do interviews for our students at the beginning throughout May. What we look at when an athlete applies is their athletic achievement. So where are they in their sport performance pathway? We also look at their coach recommendation. Each coach is required to send in a reference letter. Also, a teacher recommendations, one of their teachers from a core curriculum course, such as math, science, and then their academic work habits on their report cards, like Christina mentioned earlier, whether they're all excellence, goods, or S's. And then their athletic standards, so where they are in regard to their specific sport. These are just preliminary acceptances. You can be given an acceptance offer and then a conditionally accepted. You can also be waitlisted or conditionally waitlisted, depending on some specific requirements not being met or given a specific deadline. And then the last one is not being accepted. Some application tips. We like the application process to be athlete centered. So asking a lot of questions, should be, like I said, student athlete driven and parent support. Understanding your sport pathway. So the CSI Pacific website has a lot of valuable information on each individual sport pathway. And it can obviously be a little bit more confusing because there's a lot of information. So that just relates back to asking a lot more questions. And then obviously checking your emails to see how your application is processed, when your interview is, or when your availability is. And I will pass it on to Stacy.
Okay, so tuition for next year will be $3,000 and a deposit of $300 upon acceptance into the program. So through the transition with CSI to PICE, we did evaluation of the program and determined that the actual value that students are getting is at least $6,000. So PICE will be subsidizing the remaining $3,000 with our own resources. And as a charitable organization, we will have the ability to seek donations for the school into the future. And as for transportation, going forward, transportation will be the responsibility of the students and their families. Thank you. And if you'd like to view our facilities, you can visit at pice.ca. And during non-COVID times, you're welcome, of course, to come for a tour. Thanks.
Is there any additional questions just about the athletics, academics, or the administrative application process? You can type it in the chat or unmute, or you can send Christina or I an email.
Hey, it's Mike Monroe speaking. Just a question on the transition to PICE. What does that actually mean in practice compared to the program this year? And what is that going to look like next year?
So I think you can be assured that the program will be very similar. It will be the same curriculum. And right now we're just working through, what the staffing will look like, what the program times will be, but we're definitely keeping with the same standards, same qualities, and it should be a very seamless transition. We have another question here. How early before you plan on applying does it make sense? Oh, sorry, I lost it there. How early before you plan on applying does it make sense to start learning about the program and asking questions?
I don't mind answering that one.
Thanks.
I think ideally in grade, if you came to an info session in grade 8, because then you can plan your courses. I can speak to it from an academic standpoint anyways. When you can plan your courses in grade 9 so that rather than taking electives, you could front end load some of your grade 10 core courses. I think some students that come into our program and they've front end loaded a bunch of their courses, they just find that they, A, if they want to take all the sciences, it's an option, and B, they don't need to take as many online courses in addition to, and sometimes they don't even need to take the online English. So that would be the ideal, but I mean, students have come into our programs, some come in grade 10, some 11, some 12. So I think in the perfect world, it's you plan ahead and you can front and load those courses, but students have come in at any time.
Are there any other questions?
Just a comment, I think if people do have questions, I know that they can reach out to Laura Ellen, Christina, even myself, or you, Stacy, from a PICE perspective. Certainly that's part of getting a better understanding of, what the sports school is and how it will enhance your athletic development.
Awesome. Well, I would like to thank everyone for attending. And like Dave said, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us. If there are any concerns or anything like that, like I said, please reach out to us, but we would like to thank you for attending tonight. The recording will be posted on the Sports School website. If you know anyone else that is a good fit for a program, be more than happy to share it.
I'd also just like to thank everyone for attending tonight, and thanks to Pisey, Sault School District, and particularly I just want to put a shout out to all the students. That was just awesome again this year, really well done, and to Laura, Ellen, and Christina for your help and guiding those students to making such great presentations. So that was absolutely wonderful.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, I think we're done. Laura, Ellen, we can sign off.
Sounds good.